Hi, this video is about making color charts and swatching your colors, which is really fun for some people and super tedious for other people. And I'm kind of in the middle here. I want to flip through some of the ways that I make my color charts, and then I want to show you what I have switched to, which has been incredibly helpful to me as a teacher and probably would be helpful to you as a student or as a person who's trying to buy watercolor paints. So when I first started, this page is back from 2020, I would make a page for different brands of paints. And in this case, I have two different brands of paints on the same page. This is Sennelier and these are Winsor Newton. And I would list the number of the paints, which there's usually a number on the chart that comes from the factory, from the product chart. And I list out the names, and I would show swatches where I would go from maybe full strength paint down to kind of a diluted version where I dilute the paint so I can see how dark it can be and how light it can be in one particular hue. And sometimes I was testing for blooms, and if I zoom you in on this, let's see if I can do this in a way that works for you. You can see that top row, there are a lot of blooms. Those are those cauliflower looking little bursts that happen because I probably went back in more than once into these paints and with my brush, and that makes a bloom, which is something for a whole other video, but you can see blooms on those. And in here in the Winsor Newtons, you can see a couple of blooms. Here's a nice one on the red. Sometimes you like blooms, sometimes you don't. But nonetheless, there they are appearing in my color book. So, like I was saying, I would make pages for all my different kinds of paints. There's another page over here. And sorry, my camera is a little bit shaky today. So that way I could kind of know, okay, well, this is this palette or my travel palette. Even though I had, a big studio palette, maybe my travel palette only had a few of the colors. So I wanted to know what was in everything. And mine is just kind of very basic. This was just having some fun. I just make shapes, squares, circles, rectangles, doesn't matter, whatever you like. And I did all the paints that I owned at that time. Okay, here's Schminke, and this was a small palette with just 8 colors in it. So yes, it's handy. Then I got a little more technical and I started on one page comparing similar colors. So here are this is all my core, which is the Golden brand, Sennelier, Daniel Smith, Winsor Newton, and Schminke. And I was trying to be kind of, I just did them in the order they came in the palette, so I don't have necessarily every single blue on the same line. And that was problematic, which is why I shifted to a different method that I'll show you in a second. So part of me doing it like this is that so I could see if any one of them in general or overall had much more vibrant colors than another brand. So that might lead me to a preferred brand, let's say. Okay, then what else? Here again, this is just from a Daniel Smith palette. So all of these colors were in one palette, and I made little marks, kind of like the periodic table of the elements where it has so much information on it. Here, this little G that's circled with a highlight indicates granulating colors, and there's another video on granulating paint, so you can look at that one later, or maybe you've already seen it. So, and then this was just playing around and kind of testing out colors. So that was very helpful to me for a while, and I still keep this as a record. And then I have a little watercolor book like this, which it's watercolor paper, and again I can do the same kind of charts in here, but what was more important to me was keeping a log of what colors I used for certain paintings. So here back in 2021 we did a painting of a doorknob, and I used these colors, and they're all abbreviated, so for me, I know what the abbreviations mean, but you may not. But this was just a record, so in case I wanted to go back and reproduce the same painting, maybe for somebody else, if I want another original or a different version of it, I would know what colors I used in the butterfly back in 2021, or the giraffe, or what else do we have in here? You can see I did little tests in here as well. The cupcake, and all of these are dated, so I know when I actually taught that painting. So that was very helpful to me over the years. And then somehow I guess I got out of the habit, which would be a great habit for me to get back into, to do something like this. But I've painted for so long that I can kind of almost look at the painting and identify what the colors were, just because I know, and not have to have this record to go back to. Okay, so those were the old ways. Now what I've been doing, which I think is super helpful, is I have just a plain binder, and I bought these inserts which are used for holding sports cards like baseball cards. And I know you're getting a lot of reflection on here, so I'm going to try and make it better for you, but I'm using a light that shines on here, so I can't completely eliminate that. So what this is every single color of every single brand of paint that I own. And I swatched them all. I cut out these cards. Too bad they don't sell them that way or that size, but I cut them out myself to fit into the baseball card sleeves. And so I have 2 brands of Van Dyke Brown, or I have 2 or 3 different alizarin crimsons. And I usually try to keep them next to each other. In this case, they're not quite next to each other. But why this is so great is I can pull these out and I can show them at the beginning of a class and say, these are the colors that we're using. And if somebody says, oh gee, I don't have, let me see, let's pick a good color. I don't have New Gamboge. What can I use that is similar to New Gamboge? Well, I have 2 different brands of it here, but maybe I might say, well, you can get pretty close with this transparent yellow from Winsor Newton, or maybe this nickel azo yellow down here with Golden's brand. So this allows me to compare the differences between the same color name in different brands. So here we have 2 different sap greens, and they're slightly different in color. And in fact, I can take them out of here hopefully pretty easily while we're on camera. But this way you're going to see them outside of the sleeve. And there's a slight difference in these. The Daniel Smith DS there means Daniel Smith. The Daniel Smith one looks like a little more yellow or a little more vibrancy to me than the Winsor Newton version. So that helps me, or I can offer other suggestions for people. You don't have sap green, try this other color instead. So that's been a great tool. Now, you might be asking me, what is this black line about? In hindsight, I probably could have made this a little bit more artistic, but or appealing, I guess. But what I did was use a thick Sharpie, and I put this black line down on the paper before any paint appears, and then I painted over the top of it. And the reason for that is because it lets me see if the paint is opaque or transparent, and how much opacity it has, or how much transparency it has. So here is a Schminke color called Lemon Yellow, and maybe you can see a little bit of this yellow shows up over that black line. Of course, if I put it on full strength, like right out of the tube, like pudding, yeah, it'll cover that black line more. But all the consistencies of my paint were pretty similar, probably all about like coffee consistency. So if coffee consistency will still let me see yellow over that black line, I know there's a little bit of opacity to this color, even if maybe I don't have the factory color chart handy to tell me how opaque it is. So that's what that was about. And then I can go even farther with this if I had all kinds of free time. On the backs, I can write any information I want. And what might I want on there? Let me show you. Let's go over here and look at this color chart. This is from Daniel Smith. This is a wonderful and humongous chart of all their different colors. It's got 2 sides on it. So we're going to just zero in on one color of paint for now. Let's say on my little index card here, I want to have more info. I might want to know, and I can find some of this out on the tube itself. I think this is going to be hard for you to see with the focus, but on the side, it will tell me the name of the color, right? Lunar Red Rock. But it'll tell me the, the name is escaping me right now. Every paint color of every brand has pigment numbers. So this is called, this one is pigment, it's red 101. So the pigment is red 101. Somebody else might have a brand called, or a color called Lunar Red Rock, but they may not necessarily have Red 101 in it. It might be made up of some other color. So that is why my Van Dyke Brown with Daniel Smith looks like different from somebody else's Winsor Newton Van Dyke Brown, because maybe these numbers right here are slightly off. So that's a good, it's kind of like the recipe is right there. So having the pigment number could be something you could have on the back of your card, but you could also, let's look at Lunar Red Rock here. Let's see, is that in focus for you? I'm trying to get the reflection off. Lunar Red Rock, it has these numbers and letters here telling us stuff. This letter I tells us in the chart, or in the key right up here, I is excellent under light fastness. So that tells us it's not going to fade. It also is a number 2. Number 2 over here is low staining. So some pigments really stain your paper and you can never get back to white. This is low staining. It'll also tell you about the granulation. I know that that's a granulating paint. So if we come back here, you're going to see that there's a Y. Yes, it granulates. It tells me right there. And then the last thing is the transparency. Transparent, you'll have just a circle with nothing in it. Semi-transparent is half shaded in, and opaque, meaning not transparent at all, is colored in all the way. So for every single color of your paint, you're going to know how light fast it is, which means it's fading or not fading. You're going to know if it's granulating or not, if it's staining or not, and how transparent it is. So if you are totally into making color charts or these color cards like I do, you can have all this information on each individual one that you own, so that if you don't have this chart or you don't feel like digging it out and looking it up, you know what you're dealing with of just your own palette. So that is probably a ton of information, and you probably feel like you were just in a science class, but it's I don't know, I'm kind of fascinated with it, and I have like this little silly thrill about being able to match a color for somebody when they don't have the exact color that I'm suggesting, which is where this little number, this P101, PR101 comes in handy. If I really were a person that memorized everything, I might know, well, who else, what other color in here uses PR101? Or, you know, so I can kind of do a little cheat and check the recipe and see what will work for them. So lots of information in that video. I hope it helps you out. I hope you have fun. Don't feel like you're locked into having to do this. You can do any kind of beautiful shapes that you want. There are books out there with beautiful kind of like mandalas in there that you can fill in for your color chart. You can make it be artistic and just like a beautiful painting. It doesn't have to be like this, but this is just how I work. So I hope you found that helpful, and happy painting.